In May 1990, demonstrations in this square in Ulaanbaatar started a revolution that would see the downfall of communism in Mongolia. In English, Ulaanbaatar means Red Warrior, and to Mongolians the name serves as a constant reminder of their country's recent political past. 16 years after democracy took hold of the Central Asian country, the capital city is booming. Nearly 50% of the 2.5 million people that inhabit Mongolia now live in the capital. Once only politicians were permitted to drive here. Now the city overflows with vehicles. Before the fall of communism, sport in Mongolia was mainly restricted to the nation's 3 traditional pastimes: archery, horse riding, and wrestling. Of the 3, traditional Mongolian wrestling is the most popular. But since the country began to welcome the outside world in 1990, another form of wrestling has gripped the nation. In Mongolia, sumo is the new sport of choice for thousands of children across the country. They're taking up the quintessential Japanese sport inspired by sumo's only current yokozuna. Asashoryu is Mongolia's most successful sportsman. The 25-year-old is well on the way to etching his name in the sports history books as the greatest ever grand champion. Unsurprisingly, his success has given aspiring rikishi in his homeland a hero to idolize.
I admire lots of wrestlers, especially the ones that have small builds like me. Fighters that are smaller have to use their brain more and be technically. There are lots of Mongolians succeeding in Japan, and they have made me believe that I too can become a successful fighter. But most of all, I look up to our champion, Asashoryu.
I really like watching all the Mongolian rikishi in Japan and trying to copy their techniques. As a youngster trying to become a champion wrestler, it's great to see Mongolians winning all the time. One day, I want like Asashoryu.
Mongolian-born wrestlers make up the biggest international contingent in professional sumo, with over 30 now earning a living in Japan. That number is expected to keep on rising over the next few years, with the number of young Mongolians moving to Japan increasing annually. Mongolians first went to sumo stables in Japan, like this one, in the early 1990s, after the fall of communism. Aware that wrestling was a national obsession amongst Mongolians, the sumo authorities invited several young wrestlers to move to Japan and study the sport. Their aim was to make sumo more global and more competitive, and they saw Mongolia as the perfect place to find new talent. Mongolian wrestlers' success in Japan has undoubtedly been helped by their passion for traditional wrestling. Bayar Saikhan is a former Mongolian champion who also tasted success in amateur sumo, winning silver medals at 2 world championships. He's also the man who introduced Asashoryu to sumo.
Of course, there are differences between sumo and our wrestling. But if you've grown up wrestling, you can wrestle in any style. And that's the main reason why Mongolian wrestlers have done so well in Japan, because to us, wrestling is as natural as walking. I think that in wrestling, an athlete needs just 1% talent. The remaining 99% is sheer hard work. But that 1% is still the most important element.
The success and popularity that sumo now enjoys in Mongolia is such that it might be seen as a threat to Mongolian wrestling. But Bayar Saikhan, who trains youngsters in the traditional form, thinks the 2 styles can coexist.
In Mongolia, we just love wrestling, whether it's sumo or Mongolian wrestling. Of course, the money you can earn in sumo is going to attract lots of youngsters, but our culture will never die. In fact, I think that our success in Japan has increased the popularity of our wrestling, as everyone knows that traditional wrestling is the basis for their success.
21-year-old Hakuho is being tipped as Mongolia's next sumo superstar. He's already reached the rank of sekewake, the third highest in the sport, and is expected to join Asashoryu as a yokozuna in the next few years.
When he first got to the highest division judo.
There are two reasons why the pressure on Hakuho to succeed is high. His considerable talent as a wrestler is one, but his father is another. Mongbat was one of Mongolia's most successful traditional wrestlers.
I was one of 7 boys that went to Japan to join a stable when I was still quite young. It's thanks to my father that I've achieved what I have so far. He's supported me and he's believed in me, even when I didn't necessarily believe in myself.
He used to look at sumo magazines when he was about 5 years old. Then he'd say he wanted to become a big famous sumo wrestler, just like the ones in the pictures. I really wanted him to take up judo, but he was never interested. Instead, he'd just carry on talking about sumo. When I asked him why, he told me it was because he was so small, and he wanted to become as big as the sumo wrestlers in the magazines.
Hakuho needs to record 13 wins in a single tournament to earn promotion to the rank of Ozeki. Although that's his main target for this year, his long-term goals are a lot more ambitious.
My strength and technique are improving all the time. I'm determined to get better and better and stay injury-free. Hopefully, soon I'll join Asashoryu and become a yokozuna.
Mongolians have only been participating in Japan's national sport for just over a decade, but in that time the impact that they've had has been remarkable. With the popularity of sumo growing all the time in a country so passionate about wrestling, don't be surprised to see many more Mongolian yokozunas in the near future.